大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。 有一种美，美到让人想哭，美到让人想消失在其中。日本人有个词叫做物哀，就是那种看见美丽的东西，心里却升起一阵淡淡哀伤的感觉，好像知道美丽是短暂的，好像知道一切终将消逝。川端康成用一生去追逐这种美，然后他自己也选择消失了。今天的大师是川端康成，第一位获得诺贝尔文学奖的日本作家。他用文字把日本的灵魂说清楚了。川端康成出生在1899年，那是明治32年。大阪府堺市。他刚出生就是个孤儿命，1岁的时候父亲去世，3岁的时候母亲也去世了，7岁的时候祖母去世，16岁的时候唯一的亲人相依为命的祖父也走了。你想想看，一个人在生命最脆弱的阶段，一个人失去所有爱他的人，那种孤独是渗进骨子里的，不是文艺的那种孤独，是真正的。从小就学会和死亡相处，从小就知道人终有一别。川端自己后来说，他的灵魂从童年起就是孤儿了。这不是在博取同情，这是他整个文学世界的根源。他追求美，因为美是短暂的，短暂的东西才珍贵。就像他失去的那些人。他小时候住在祖父家，祖父是个几乎全盲的老人。川端每天陪着祖父，读报给他听，照顾他的生活起居。后来他把这段日子写成了一篇文章，叫做16岁的日记。那篇文章里有一句话让人看了很难受。他说他一边照顾祖父，一边在旁边偷偷记录祖父死去的过程。这听起来很冷酷，对不对？但川端不是冷酷，他是一个非常敏感的灵魂。他知道如果不记录，这一切就真的消失了。所以他记录，用文字把死亡留下来，用文字对抗消逝。这就是他整个文学事业的起点。川端康成考上了东京帝国大学，他读的是英文系，后来转到日文系。在大学里他认识了很多文学同好，创办了同人杂志，开始认真走上创作这条路。20岁出頭的时候他恋爱了，对象是一个叫做伊藤初代的女孩，2个人订了婚。可是几个月后，初代突然提出解除婚約，没有给清楚的理由，就这样消失了。川端崩溃了，他写了一篇叫做《非常》的文章，记录了这段感情破碎的过程。那个伤痛他一生都没有完全走出来。后来他的很多作品都有一个搏命的女性形象，都有一个被命运捉弄的爱情。有些人说那都是初代的影子。川端后来结婚了，太太叫做秀子，2个人相处几十年，但他心里始终有个地方是封起来的，是那个16岁就开始学习失去的男孩保管的。1926年，川端康成27岁，开始写一部小说。这部小说他写了整整16年才写完，就是雪国。雪国这2个字说出来就有画面，皑皑白雪，温泉旅馆，昏黄的灯光，一个叫做居子的艺妓，和一个叫做岛村的旅人。小说的开头是世界文学史上最有名的句子之一，穿越县界长长的隧道，便是雪国。就这样，没有铺陈，没有解释，一个隧道，2个世界，一个是现实的，一个是梦幻的。岛村每次去雪国，就像进入另一个宇宙，而那个宇宙里有居子。居子是个用尽全力生活的人，他每天练3味线。虽然他自己说那些日记毫无意义，但他还是记。他爱岛村，明知道这份爱不会有结果，他还是爱。川端写的就是这种用尽全力去做一件徒劳的事，那种徒劳本身就是一种美。岛村则是个旁观者，他欣赏居子，但他欣赏的方式是冷淡的，他就像个看着雪景的人，他欣赏，但他不属于那里。川端用这2个人物说出了他对美的理解。美是被看见的，美是短暂的，美是徒劳的，但美是真实的。雪国在1937年开始连载， 1948年全本出版，在日本引起了极大的回响。那个战后的时代，日本人需要美，需要有人告诉他们，在废墟里依然有值得珍惜的东西。雪国给了他们这个东西，然后是古都，然后是千与鹤。川端一步接着一步写，每一步都在探索那种薄如蝉翼的美，那种看了会心疼的美。1961年，川端康成受邀到美国演讲，他的演讲题目是《日本之美与我》。他在台上用文字描绘了日本的四季，描绘了茶道的静寂，描绘了花道的枯荣，描绘了禅的空。他说日本的美是空的美，是无的美，是消逝之中的美。那场演讲让西方世界第一次真正认识了日本文学的内核，不是武士道，不是富士山，而是物哀，而是那个隐藏在美丽背后的淡淡忧伤。1968年，诺贝尔文学奖委员会宣布川端康成获奖，他是第一个获得这个奖的日本作家。委员会给他的颁奖词说，他以非凡的敏锐表现了日本人心灵的精髓。川端在斯德哥尔摩的演讲题目是《美丽的日本与我》，他讲了道元禅师的诗，春天的花，夏天的布谷鸟，秋天的月，冬天的雪，这4个意象道尽了一切。美不是永恒的，美是刹那的，但刹那的才最美。他的得奖演说至今仍被视为诺贝尔文学史上最具诗意的演说之一。没有炫技，没有论述，只是一首用散文写的诗。就在川端站在世界顶端的同一年，他的好友兼弟子三岛由纪夫用一种震惊世界的方式结束了自己的生命。1970年，三岛由纪夫在自卫队基地策动兵变失败，然后剖腹自尽。川端是第一批赶到现场的人之一，他看了三岛的遗体，他说，用那样的方式死，真的很可怕。那之后川端就变了，有人说他的光熄灭了一部分。三岛是他最疼爱的文学后辈，米西马西，他的世界少了一根支柱。1972年，三岛去世的1年半后，川端康成在豆子的工作室含着煤气管自杀了。他没有留下任何遗书，什么都没说就走了。研究者后来有各种猜测，有人说是身体的病痛，有人说是三岛之死的打击，有人说他的人生本来就朝着这个方向走，从16岁就开始了。他是跟死亡一起长大的人，他最后只是回去了。川端康成的死本身就是一个物哀的终章，就像他小说里那些薄命的女性，在最美的时刻消失，留下一个让人久久不能平静的空白。但他留下来的文字还在，雪国还在，那个隧道还在，那个穿越之后的白茫茫世界还在。有人问，为什么日本文学这么喜欢写哀，写消逝，写不完整？川端给了一个答案，他说，不知道死的人不可能真正懂得美。这句话不是悲观，这句话是他用72年的生命换来的理解。美因为短暂所以珍贵，爱因为会失去所以真实，人因为会死所以活着值得珍惜。川端康成的文字之所以那么美，之所以那么让人心疼，就是因为他比任何人都懂得失去。他从1岁就开始失去了，他一直在失去，然后他把所有的失去都变成了文字，都变成了雪国的白，都变成了那条永远穿不完的隧道。今天讲的是川端康成，诺贝尔文学奖得主，日本物哀美学最深刻的诠释者，一个从失去中生出美丽的人。下次你看雪，下次你看到某样美丽的东西，记得那种心里微微一紧的感觉，那就是物哀，那就是川端康成的世界。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I am Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. There is a kind of beauty that makes you want to cry. A kind of beauty so overwhelming that you wish you could disappear inside it. The Japanese have a word for this feeling. The word is mono no aware. It describes the sensation of seeing something beautiful and feeling a quiet sadness rise up inside you at the same moment. Because you know the beauty is temporary. Because you know that everything will eventually fade away. Yasunari Kawabata spent his entire life chasing this kind of beauty. And in the end, he disappeared into it himself. Today we are talking about Yasunari Kawabata, the first Japanese writer to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. A man who used words to capture the very soul of Japan. Kawabata was born in 1899. That was the 32nd year of the Meiji era. He was born in Sakai City, Osaka Prefecture. And from the very beginning, his life was shaped by loss. His father died when he was 1 year old. His mother died when he was 3. His grandmother died when he was 7. And when he was 16, the last person he had in the world, his grandfather, the old man he had been living with and caring for, also passed away. Try to imagine that. A child at his most vulnerable age, losing everyone who loved him, one by one. The kind of loneliness that creates is not poetic. It is not the fashionable, artistic kind of solitude. It is bone deep. It is the kind of loneliness that comes from learning, as a very small child, that the people you love will leave. That love and loss are always walking together. Kawabata himself once said that his soul had been an orphan since childhood. He was not seeking sympathy when he said this. He was describing the root of his entire literary world. He pursued beauty because beauty is brief. And brief things are precious. Just like the people he had lost. As a child, he lived with his grandfather. His grandfather was nearly blind. Every day, Kawabata sat beside the old man. He read the newspaper aloud. He handled the daily tasks his grandfather could no longer manage. Later, he would write about this time in a piece called Diary of a 16-year-old. There is a line in that piece that is almost unbearable to read. He wrote that while he was caring for his grandfather, he was also secretly keeping notes on the process of the old man dying. This might sound cold to you at first. But Kawabata was not cold. He was one of the most acutely sensitive human beings who ever lived. He understood that if he did not write things down, they would be gone forever. So he wrote. He used words to hold on to what was vanishing. He used language as a weapon against disappearance. That act of writing beside a dying man, that is the origin point of his entire literary life. Kawabata went on to study at Tokyo Imperial University. He started in the English literature department, then transferred to Japanese literature. At university he connected with other writers, launched literary journals, and began to take his creative work seriously. In his early 20s he fell in love. The woman was named Ito Hatsuyo. They became engaged. But a few months later, without clear explanation, Hatsuyo broke off the engagement and disappeared from his life. Kawabata was shattered. He wrote a piece called The Extraordinary, documenting the collapse of this relationship with clear-eyed, almost clinical detail. He never fully recovered from that wound. And for the rest of his life, many of his female characters would carry something of Hatsuyo in them. Something doomed, something luminous, something always just out of reach. Kawabata did eventually marry. His wife was named Hideko. They remained together for decades. But there was always a part of him that was sealed off, kept by that 16-year-old boy who had already learned to live alongside grief. In 1926, when Kawabata was 27 years old, he began writing a novel. It would take him 16 years to complete. The novel was called Snow Country. Snow Country. Even those two words create an image. White snow stretching to the horizon. A hot spring inn. The warm amber glow of a lamp in the dark. A geisha named Kamako. A traveler named Shimamura. The novel opens with one of the most famous sentences in all of world literature. The translation goes something like this. The train came out of the long tunnel in the mountain border, and there was the snow country. Just like that. No preamble. No explanation. One tunnel. Two worlds. On one side, ordinary reality. On the other side, something dreamlike and separate. Every time Shimamura enters the snow country, it is like stepping into another universe. A universe where Kamako lives. Kamako is a woman who puts everything she has into living. She practices the shamisen every single day. She keeps a careful diary. Even though she herself says the diary is meaningless, she keeps writing. She loves Shimamura. Even knowing that this love will lead nowhere. She loves him anyway. What Kawabata was writing about was this. The act of pouring yourself completely into something futile. The beauty of that futility itself. Shimamura, on the other hand, is an observer. He appreciates Kamako. But his appreciation is cool, detached. He is like someone watching snow fall through a window. He can see the beauty, but he does not belong to it. Through these two characters, Kawabata expressed his understanding of beauty. Beauty is something witnessed. Beauty is something temporary. Beauty is something essentially futile. And yet beauty is real. Snow Country began serialization in 1937. The complete book was published in 1948. It caused an enormous response across Japan. In the post-war era, people needed beauty. They needed someone to tell them that even in the ruins, there were still things worth cherishing. Snow Country gave them that. Then came the old capital. Then came Thousand Cranes. Kawabata kept writing, one book after another, each one exploring that gossamer thin quality of beauty, that particular heartache of looking at something so lovely it almost hurts. In 1961, Kawabata was invited to give a lecture in the United States. His title was Japan the Beautiful and Myself. He stood at the podium and used language to paint the 4 seasons of Japan. The quiet of the tea ceremony. The discipline of flower arranging. The emptiness at the center of Zen practice. He said that the beauty of Japan is the beauty of emptiness. The beauty of nothingness. The beauty found precisely within the act of vanishing. That lecture gave the Western world its first genuine encounter with the inner core of Japanese literature. Not samurai. Not Mount Fuji. But Mono no Aware. The bittersweet sadness hidden inside every beautiful thing. In 1968, the Nobel Committee announced their decision. Yasunari Kawabata had won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He was the first Japanese writer ever to receive it. The committee cited his narrative mastery, his expression of the essence of the Japanese mind. At the ceremony in Stockholm, Kawabata gave his acceptance speech. He titled it Japan the Beautiful and Myself. He quoted the Zen monk Dogen. The spring flowers, the summer cuckoo, the autumn moon, and in winter the cold clarity of snow. 4 images. Everything expressed in 4 images. Beauty is not eternal. Beauty exists in an instant. But the instant is what makes it most beautiful. His Nobel speech is still considered one of the most poetic acceptance addresses in the history of the prize. No elaborate argument. No display of scholarly machinery. Just a poem written in prose form. In the same year Kawabata reached the peak of the world stage. Something terrible was happening to someone close to him. His dear friend and literary protege Yukio Mishima was moving toward the most dramatic exit in Japanese literary history. In 1970, Mishima led a failed attempt to incite an uprising at a self-defense forces base. When it failed, he performed ritual disembowelment and died. Kawabata was among the first people to reach the scene. He viewed the body. He said afterward, "To die in that manner. It is truly terrifying." After that, something changed in Kawabata. People who knew him said that a light inside him had gone out. Mishima had been the literary heir he had believed in most deeply. With Mishima gone, one of the central pillars of his world had collapsed. In April of 1972, 18 months after Mishima died, Kawabata Yasunari was found in his studio in Zushi. He had taken his own life using gas. He left no note. No explanation. No final words. He simply went. Scholars have offered many theories since then. Some point to physical illness. Some point to the devastating impact of Mishima's death. Some suggest that Kawabata had been walking toward this moment since he was 16 years old. He was a man who had grown up alongside death. Perhaps in the end he simply returned to where he had always felt most at home. Kawabata's death was itself an act of mono no aware. Like the ill-fated women in his own novels. Disappearing at the height of their beauty. Leaving behind a silence that lingered long after they were gone. But the words he left behind are still here. Snow Country is still here. That long tunnel is still here. That vast white world on the other side is still here. People sometimes ask, why does Japanese literature so often write about grief? About impermanence? About incompleteness? Kawabata gave the answer. He said, those who do not know death cannot truly know beauty. This is not a pessimistic statement. This is the understanding he arrived at after 72 years of living. Beauty is precious because it does not last. Love is real because it can be lost. Life is worth cherishing precisely because it ends. Kawabata's writing moves us so deeply. It aches the way it does. Because he understood loss better than almost anyone. He had been losing things since he was 1 year old. He never stopped losing. And he took all of that loss. And transformed it into words. Into the whiteness of the snow country. Into the endless tunnel that can always be entered but never fully escaped. Today we talked about Yasunari Kawabata, Nobel laureate in literature. The most profound voice of the Japanese aesthetic of mono no aware. A man who grew beauty from the soil of loss. The next time you see snow. The next time you encounter something so beautiful it makes your chest tighten for just a moment. Remember that feeling. That is mono no aware. That is Kawabata's world. See you next time.